No, princess. Hold on. Did you get a notification? Are we live?
My phone.
It went from a green line to an orange line. Hey, Robin. Heard about the car today. Sorry. That's why we're running late, too. Ours was acting up, and it got fixed. Hi, Heather. Hey, Julie. So, yeah, we're running a little bit late because our car was acting like a bucking bronco. Isn't that what they're called? In a rodeo? But it is resolved now. So, hey, Terry. Hey, Incense. Okay, we're going to give it a couple of minutes, but we're going to talk about this tonight because it's important, especially nowadays. It's important. You going to sit away from me?
I was going to sit where I could do stuff, but I'll sit over here.
Sit over here. You can read from my screen. So, hi. My toe just got hurted, but it'll be all right. You have one of these. Everybody should have one of these. If you don't have one of these, let me know. I will get you one of these. I sent out a few copies of this week, and are happy to send out copies so that everybody has at least one copy in their household. It's necessary. I'm going to be on a rant tonight because people don't know this. And because people don't know this, the things that should be happening aren't, and things that aren't supposed to be happening are. You know that I gave up cable about 8 years ago. I gave up cable for 2 reasons. One, I got tired of paying for things that I didn't want to, I had no interest in ever watching. And 2, because I just couldn't deal with.
Stupid.
I'm trying to find a nicer way to say that. I couldn't
Here's
deal.
Jason.
Hey, Jason. I couldn't deal with people who should know better acting like they didn't know better. And I saw.
Yes, Jason said someone got a haircut.
Yes, he did. I cut it
I was
yesterday.
going to say, I have a lovely barber.
Yesterday I heard a soundbite that absolutely made my blood boil. It was a certain governor from a certain state talking about the Supreme Court. And if Roe v. Wade was undone, what he was going to do. You have your opinions on Roe v. Wade. I have my opinions on Roe v. Wade. We're not debating them tonight. But what I heard, this supposedly educated person who was in charge of a state And the comment that he made, that if the Supreme Court of the United States reversed Roe v. Wade, he was going to take them to court. Are you freaking kidding me? You are going to take the highest judicial body of this nation to court? Are you going to look at them and say, change your mind?
I'm pretty sure there's a reason they call it the Supreme Court.
Because there is no higher court. These are the people that we keep electing and re-electing to govern us. I no longer blame them. I blame us. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. They get away with it because we let them. We elect them over and over and over. Going to take the Supreme Court.
Well, see, here's the thing. Those people are elected by other idiots who believe the same
Princess,
as them.
I'm sorry about that. Princess decided she wanted to be where the computer was.
Oh, you too.
Hi, Tanya. You're just in time for my rant. They get away with it because nobody understands what's in here anymore. Oh, you may have heard about things that are in here, and you may have been explained to by what things are in here. But why would you, why? Just explain to me why you would not read this for yourself and not go to the original writers. There's two books you can get, the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers. They explain to you because you have the writings, not somebody's interpretation, but the people who actually wrote this. Letters explaining why they wrote what they did, why they fought for what they did, why they didn't put things in that they did, why there was such an argument over this. You don't have a copy? Let me know. I'll send you a copy. Each one of these, between purchasing them and mailing them, cost me $1.71 a piece. That's how important it is to me that everybody in every household has their own copy. Because my thing these days, you're going to tell me it's in the Constitution? I'm going to pull out my copy and I'm going to hand you a copy and I'm going to tell you, show me where. Because I'm tired of hearing, it's constitutional, it's constitutional. 90% of what the federal government does these days is not constitutional. But they get away with it because we sit there and let them. Because we elect them and re-elect them and elect them over again. Because we don't know the definition of insanity.
Congress?
Congress?
The definition of insanity.
Not just Congress. We're going to start with Basic Government 101. There are 3 equal but separate branches of the government. Number 1?
That would be the executive branch.
Number 2?
The legislative branch.
And number 3?
The good and plenty branch? No,
I'm going to smack you in your head right here on camera. I'm going to give you...
Judicial.
There is going to be evidence to prosecute me. Because I'm going to hit you in the head. The judicial branch. Executive branch. What does the executive branch include? It's the president. It's where DOJ is. Department of Justice. It's where...
That's the government. That's
the people who make regulations that are not passed by anyone that we elect and screw with our lives.
The executive branch, it's executive. It executes the law. It sees that the functions of government are carried out and the laws are faithfully executed and obeyed.
These are not non-elected, at times, little tyrants. Tyrants.
The problem is
not tyrants, tyrants.
Congress has gotten lazy over the past 20, 30, 40 years. They don't write detailed laws anymore. They write laws with generalities, and then they let
that are easily interpreted by
whoever,
by either the executive branch and those little regulatory people, or the judicial branch. Now,
but the executive branch comes up with regulations that the ones that actually define what the law says, and that's not the way it's supposed to work.
No, it's not. We're getting there. Now, the second equal, not one better, not one less, equal branch of the government is the legislative branch. That entails the House of Representatives, which is the people's house, which is what we are supposed to vote for, what is the people that are accountable to us, our congressmen, senators. Find a stupid amendment that changed senators. In the original Constitution, senators were not elected by the people. Why? Because the people had the House of Representatives. That was our voice. That was our voice in government to tell people what we wanted, tell the federal government what we wanted. I think it's around 2018, 20, somewhere around there.
I don't remember.
Okay. So, the Senate. The Senate was set up not to be popular vote. The Senate was set up to represent the states, the needs of the states, to be the representative of the 17th? Okay. I don't have my reading glasses on, but the 17th Amendment needs to be repealed. The 17th Amendment allows popular vote for state senators. Prior to that, the senators were appointed by the governors. They had the best interest of the state. That was their purpose, to have the best interest of the state. The House of Representatives was to have the interest of the people. The Senate was to have the interest of the state. Once the 17th Amendment was ratified on
April 8th, 1913.
April 8th, 1913. That's when the states lost its representation to the federal government and became subjects of the federal government. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, pretty much. The states no longer have a voice in the federal government.
Because now we vote for our state senators. My opinion, huge mistake. Huge. Catastrophic.
Okay. I got a text from Steve.
Okay.
He is inquiring as to... No? Just tell him no? Or...
Tell him no, please. Thank you. So, that's what happened to the Senate. Now, the third branch of government, which is supposed to be equal, not better than, not less than the other two branches of government, which are the executive branch and the legislative branch. I need somebody to explain to me in a way. I am one of God's slower children at times. Sometimes things have to be spelled out Barney style to me. Break it down Barney style. Because I don't understand that this country stood as long as it has, and up until the mid 20th century, everybody understood exactly what the Constitution said. And it seems the further we get away from it being ratified, the less we understand it. And that's because of the third branch of government, the judicial branch, who are not supposed to make laws from the bench, but interpret whether a law is constitutional or not. And in recent past history, we have had such justices on the Supreme Court who have stated that the Constitution is an outdated document, and therefore we should look to international law when addressing grievances that come before the court. I'm sorry. Whether you think it's outdated or not, it is our governing document. This piece of paper, for the first time since mankind was on earth, said that we were not to be subjected to any king or government. King, ruler, dictator, or government. It said that our rights came from God, that they cannot be taken away from us by man. And as I said earlier, over and over, we elect people who elect judges who allow this to become irrelevant. Now, is the president irrelevant? We're getting there. Is Congress irrelevant? Oh yeah, they outsourced their job decades ago. Is the judicial system irrelevant?
No,
No, they're not.
That's where Congress outsourced their responsibilities to.
Exactly. I know that I sound angry, and I am. I really am. When I heard an elected official state that if a case was overturned in the Supreme Court, that he was going to take them to court. Even my tiny little pea brain has to throw a flag on that one.
What kind of flag?
Don't make me cuss on camera. I try very hard not to ever use that. Doesn't mean that I don't. I am not an angel by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, the problem is, as you say, Congress has abdicated their role and responsibility because, pop quiz, how many of you think impeachment is just for the president? Because
Does anybody think impeachment is only for the president? For everybody who's come in, I'm on a rant. I'm sorry if I missed you. Hello, and thank you for joining us. Hey, Lone Star. Hey, Breakaway. And anybody else who's come in. I'm on a rant.
Jason, I've been working hard to keep Skynet unaware at this point. I've been working on holding the sentience back.
Okay. The President of the United States is not the only office that can be impeached. Got another question for you. How many people think the Supreme Court is for life and can only have a vacancy due to death or retirement? Hey, oldest dirt. The justices on the Supreme Court can be removed. It's not done, and I highly do not recommend that it is done. Because once it's done, it will be done frivolously. I can't.
Frivolously. You're pretty close.
Spitting nails right now. But they can be removed. Can anybody tell me who the last president was that was impeached? Does anybody have an idea who the last president was that was impeached? And while you guys are thinking about that...
Oh, we're waiting for the lag to catch up with them?
Yeah. Yes, it was Clinton. Impeachment does not equal removal from office. People seem to think that if you impeach a president, that means removal from office. It does not. It just doesn't.
The House votes to approve articles of impeachment.
The Senate prosecutes.
If the president or anyone else is impeached, the Senate holds the trial and decides on removal or not.
And who presides over the Senate trial?
The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Exactly. It is the only time that I know, and I am going to study on this because I am not a constitutional scholar and I don't play one on television. It is the only time that I know that the three branches of government come that close in contact with each other.
They act in unison.
They act in unison. That's a better way of putting it. Because they come in contact all the time. Executive branch. The legislative branch has outsourced their jobs to both the executive and to the judicial.
Problem is, it isn't impeachment, just the indictment. Yeah, effectively.
It is.
That's the charges that will be heard at trial.
Right. Now, impeachment can be brought up against a president because of...
You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
High crimes and misdemeanors.
High crimes and misdemeanors.
Misdemeanor in the add of bad actions.
Right. Not in somebody jaywalked. Not that kind of misdemeanor.
You know, we're not talking felonies or misdemeanors as they normally hear those terms used.
We're talking the president, because we're doing presidents right now. The president has acted in bad faith, has committed a crime,
and violated the law or his responsibilities under his oath of office.
Exactly. So.
And it has to be for something that happened while he's in office.
If something happened before he was in office, and then he is questioned about it under oath, after he's in office, and he commits the crime of lying under oath, perjury.
While he was in office.
Yes.
The offense is perjury, lying under oath.
Right. If a president perjured himself while in office. That covers the original act happened. If a president did something before he was president and said, "Yep, I did it," there's not a thing they can do about it.
He got elected. Kind of makes it a moot point.
Yep.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, if you have any questions and we missed them, please put them in caps. No, it's not like when Dessa goes out to get a peach. Peach.
I just let that one slide.
Okay.
I just considered the source. The thing that bothers me about a very large number of governmental officials, elected or otherwise, is that you hold up your hand and you take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
I did not serve in the military. We all know this. I didn't do that. But I was a civil servant, and I held up my hand, and I took that same oath that said that let me see how it goes. I swear to defend the Constitution against all foreign and domestic enemies.
All enemies, foreign and domestic.
To obey the laws of
the officers appointed above me. And the officers appointed over me.
I just said, okay. I took that oath. I took that oath seriously. No, I did not wear the uniform of this country, and I would not even presume to say that I understand how much deeper that oath means to somebody who writes a blank check to this country. But I am saying I know how much it meant to me. And you need to know this. You need to read this. You need to memorize this. You need to understand it. You need to read the Federalist Papers. You need to read the Anti-Federalist Papers. You need to know your country's history.
It gives you the perspective of the original intent of what the framers meant when they wrote it.
Because you have their writings. It's not, well, so-and-so. Separation of church and state. That is not in this book at all. Nowhere. Nowhere is separation of church and state. Nada. Not one place. Do you know where that came from? That came from the Danbury Baptist Convention in Connecticut. When they wrote a letter, each state had its own religion. Maryland happened to be a Catholic state. I don't know them all. I think Rhode Island, when it was founded, was a Presbyterian state. If you read the original constitutions of each of the states, they talk about God. They talk about religion. They talk about everything.
Teresa Dean said it's an amendment.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It is not amendment.
It's not in the First Amendment either.
It is not. Separation of church and state came from a letter that was written by
Thomas Jefferson.
No. The Danbury Baptist Convention of Connecticut wrote to Thomas Jefferson because they thought that their state was making it difficult for Baptists to be there. Thomas Jefferson, in his response, wrote a letter back that says that he thought it was not for the federal government to decide religion in the states. It was a state issue. That he felt that there should be a wall between the federal government and the church. What one man wrote in a letter does not negate what's in this book. There is no amendment that says that there is a separation or a wall between the government and religion. Do I want a theocratic?
Theocracy.
A theocracy? No, I don't want a theocracy. But if I want to say Merry Christmas, or Happy Hanukkah, or Happy Ramadan, or any of those sayings, the federal government has no right to step in and say no. As a matter of fact, the federal government has no right to say that the Ten Commandments and prayer can't be in schools either. Because here's a little piece of information that you may or may not know. But the first Bible printed in the United States, after we became the United States, was printed by Congress with a dedication in the front of the Bible that said to be used in schools. Help me out.
The first Bible was printed by the Congress with the inscription, dedication that it be used in schools so that children would be educated and understand the values that it teaches.
So please tell me how we went from Congress printing the first Bible and dedicating it to school children so that they can learn from it in school to we can't even say thank you to God for lunch in school because somebody's going to be offended.
Yeah, all the First Amendment says is that the federal government, because the Constitution talks about the federal government's roles and says it will make no law abridging the free exercise of religion
or the abolishment
or acknowledging
no, just read thereof. It. Just read it.
Congress shall make no law respecting and establishing a religion. Don't get to pick a religion from the federal law. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Yeah, they don't get to prohibit our practice of our religion. Which brings me to something that happened in Texas a few years ago. There's a state or city in Texas that the mayor was not happy with what the ministers were saying from the pulpit, and she wanted every one of them to submit their sermons to the city government before they preached them on Sunday. Well, thank God the preachers all got together and said, oh, that's not happening.
Let's see. Public school is liberal indoctrination. Because of the First Amendment, if you let the Christian Bible in schools, you have to let the others in also.
Okay.
We used to have a class on comparative religions. They taught what all of the religions were. Pick which one you want, but here's what they all say.
Yeah, exactly. And another class that I had before I could graduate was comparative political and economic systems. Bet you they don't teach.
It was Houston Lone Star.
No, it wasn't Houston. It was Austin. It was not Houston. It was Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So, we're going to start doing some videos on this. It is so important that people actually understand. And don't take our word for it. I'll send you a copy of this. You read it. Excuse me. I'm going to do videos on it. I am not going to debate on it because I'm just not doing that. You read it. You investigate it. And I suggest that you don't go to anything but founding documents. Go to the Library of Congress online. They have it all. I'm sorry, you have to talk.
Well, the whole point of having us handing those out, sending them to you, I don't want you to take my word or anybody else's word for it.
No.
Read it. Read what it says. Read the various documents that pertain to the time frame. Read Common Sense. Read some of Benjamin Franklin's writings. Read the speeches of the founders. Read the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist papers, where they were going back and forth about whether there should be a federal government, how much authority and power the federal government should have. That whole discussion back and forth is why we have the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. Because they wanted, the thing is, part of the argument about the Bill of Rights was these things are so obvious, we don't need to say them. Everybody knows that.
Yes.
Well, everybody then did know that, because everybody then were educated in the Bible. They were raised in the church. They had, their faith was a major part of everybody's lives.
Everybody had a gun in their home. As a matter of fact, it was required for everybody to have a gun in their home. For every male that was, what was it?
If you were the head of a household, you were required to have a military grade, a serviceable firearm suitable for military service for all adult males in your household, whether they be your children, your sons, or your servants. Whether they were servants or indentured servants or whatever, you had to have a firearm for each of them and sufficient powder and ball ammunition for each of them.
Oh.
And if you didn't, the town would buy one and store it in the town armory at your expense. So if you were a conscientious objector and you didn't believe in guns, that's fine. They'd buy them for you and keep them, you had to pay for them after they bought them. But you were responsible for it. And a well-regulated militia. Why do you think all of the towns up northeast have town greens, village greens? Because on the weekend, once a month or twice a month, whatever the local custom was, all of the militia, that's every male of service age, showed up with their weapons, and they practiced, they drilled, and they were thereby regulated in their conduct of their activities so that they were trained and suitable for service in the militia. A well-regulated militia means everybody shows up and practices.
There's another thing that I'm going to throw out here, and I'm not going to debate it because I'm just not. There was a ruling this week by the courts on firearms, on printing 3D firearms. They won it. 3D firearms can be printed. In the arguments, DOJ, Department of Justice, also said that AR-15s are not military
grade weapons, but
yes,
are indeed modern sporting rifles. So the guy who first did the 3D printing of a workable pistol and put it online was in all kinds of legal jeopardy, and there was, he was under indictment and all of that. And the bottom line is, it's not the source code to print the weapon is not a weapon. It is not. It is
intellectual
property
and freedom.
First Amendment.
Free speech.
So whatever you say about it, as long as somebody has a 3D printer, they can make their own gun, and that's perfectly legal. So the idea that you're going to collect up all the guns, that's going to be pretty hard to accomplish. When
okay, I'm not getting into a gun argument.
Well,
we're not doing that. But I tell you this to ask you, how many of you heard it on the news? How many of you heard that case was won and ARs are not military weapons?
Cookie Mama 4 said the Constitution only works with a God-fearing people. It is never meant for all this garbage being thrown at it. It worked with the moral people quite well for almost 200 years. One of the founders,
Christy.
I believe Madison, said the Constitution is meant to govern a God-fearing people and will not serve for any other.
Exactly. Now, Again, why is this important? Why is the second branch of government so critically important to our lives? Why is it that there's 535?
What? Oh, senators and representatives?
Yeah. People in D.C. who get to decide our lives. Why is that important? Why do you need to be involved? Why do you care? They're up there, they're doing their thing because they affect your life every day. When's the last time that you got to buy the light bulb you wanted? I don't know. I remember a time when we could have three-way lights and have 25, 50, or 75 watts, or 50, 100,
150.
and 150 watts. And that was depending on my electric bill, and I got to decide how I spent my money.
Cookie Mama 4 asked, I'm lost. What was one? There was a case dealing with intellectual property rights, whether a 3D
Free
printed
speech rights.
free speech rights, whether a 3D printed gun, the files that allow you to print one, was an actual weapon itself or not. And the long and the short of a great deal of back and forth, the federal government acknowledged that the source code is speech protected under the First Amendment, not a weapon.
And printing out such said weapon is protected under the Second Amendment.
Yes. And then, as a part of the discussion and the decision, they also acknowledge the fact that no matter what you hear from the media, an AR-15 rifle is not a military-grade weapon suitable for military service. Those are civilian weapons. It's not a military one.
To be quite frank, the AR-15 was started out as a sports rifle. It really was. When they say you can't shoot a deer with an AR, yeah, that's exactly what it was meant for. Anyway, why do you need to know this? You need to know this because you have to understand the three branches of the service. You need to know that the second branch of the service, which is the legislative branch, has abdicated its authority to the other two branches. So why does that make a difference in your life? Well, it makes a difference because non-elected bodies such as Department of Energy,
the
EPA, yeah, all these different departments are regulating your life. Regulation Nation.
I believe that's referred to as the FDA.
So, again, why does Congress matter in your life? Well, there's 535 people up there who have nothing better to do than to tell you how to live your life every single day. So how do we stop that? We vote. We go out and we find people. Everybody says, I actually had this conversation with somebody one time. They said, what am I supposed to do? Go out and find somebody to vote? That's not my job. Or somebody to run? That's not my job. Well, then whose job is it? If you are so disinterested in going and finding good people, or possibly standing and saying, I will run for office myself. If you are that disinterested in what happened, reconnected. Okay. Guys, I'm sorry if we disconnected. It says we're back now. I hope we're back. Does anybody see if we're back? It's not moving.
Let me see. We never left.
Oh, okay.
We're back. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So, if it's not your job, then whose job is it? Because the people that have been picking people to run for office, I don't think they've been doing a good job.
There's a line in a movie that we particularly like.
We watch it every 4th of July.
Where they're discussing whether South Carolina should vote a levy of troops to support the rebellion against the English. And the question is, why should I exchange one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away. Well, the problem is you don't want tyrants, and if there's tyrants 1 mile away, you got a better chance of getting to them and dealing with changing their minds. That's why you need to be involved.
I never believed in term limits. I always thought term limits were dependent upon the people. This document is not being taught the way it should be anymore. So until we have a populace that understands what their rights are supposed to be and demand that they have their rights, I have changed my mind and I believe in term limits.
Well, the politicians, the political class has managed to rig the system so that once you get in, it's so much easier to stay in once you're aligned. The re-election rate was something like 96%, and Congress's popularity was 14%. If you're 14% popularity, how do you get a 96% re-election rate if the deck is not stacked in your favor?
Exactly.
Term limits break up the old boys club and start fixing
or the old girls club,
Well,
because
there's some of them too. Some of the real crazy ones that I've been seeing are ladies. Well, are women, I'd say ladies. You gonna tell me?
you got a few winners on your team too.
Oh, hey, anybody who thinks Guam's going to tip over, he's of my gender. I got no room to say anybody else is worse.
A few years ago, just Google it. You can find the video. A congressman, an elected congressman, was sitting in committee and addressed an admiral because they were making a case for bringing more personnel, American military personnel, onto Guam. This congressman, who still sits in Congress,
he's been re-elected several times since then,
asked the admiral, the princess, was he not concerned, Guam being an island,
and not a very large island,
that if you put more military personnel on one side of the island, that the island wouldn't tip. And yet his people in his district re-elect Princess, stop. Re-elect him over and over again. This is why I believe in term limits now. So we're going to start talking about the Constitution. If you want a copy of the Constitution, send me a message. I will happily send you a copy of the Constitution. I would like to say someday that we can have a discussion about it, but that doesn't seem to be going well these days. If you say something that somebody doesn't like, they try and shut you down. I'm not afraid of being shut down. I got a big mouth no matter what soapbox I stand on. I just frankly don't want to deal with somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. We have 5 minutes left. Are we still buffering?
I don't think so. Everything looks like it's doing well.
Is the Big Bear Homestead coming on after us? And does anyone have any questions?
Tanya says we're okay now.
Okay, thank you, Tanya.
Terry said we're good.
Okay. Terry, your copy went in the mail yesterday. Sent it out in the mail yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody wants a copy? I am happy to send you a copy. It will cost you nothing. I just need your name and address. That's it. And I don't keep your name and address because, frankly, I just don't.
Tanya says she wants a copy.
If you will send me your information, Tanya, I will put one in the mail on Monday for you. Happy to do it.
No questions. There's lots of things I could say about all this and what's going on everywhere.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, the other thing I will say, just do.
Excuse me. Please Google. It will explain to you the frustration of at least half the country. I'm not picking sides. I'm just saying when you hear an elected congressman who makes laws that govern our everyday life say that he hopes Guam doesn't tip over.
Hey, I got to give mad props to the admiral who
Oh
sat
my
there
God,
and kept
yeah.
a straight face.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
It's hilarious if nothing else to watch the reaction.
the admiral sat there with a straight face and not laughed in the man's face and said, "You fool."
Because I'll tell you right now, I couldn't have done it. I would say, I would have had to say something else, like you milk. What people asked me, well, people pulled in my yard and were playing with our rabbits in the hutches, and they asked what we did with the rabbits, and I told them that you milk them. Hello, Daisy.
Hello,
Get
Daisy.
down.
Okay, I think they're hungry, Daddy.
You think?
Okay, you go feed them. I'm going
Well,
to rant a little more.
I think they're in
Okay, so Big Bear is not going to go live tonight. So go on, go eat. Daddy's going to feed you. Everybody go eat.
Come here.
So, yeah, I'm ticked off. I'm ticked off that people who think islands are going to tip over get to govern my life. I'm mad that children aren't learning this anymore. I'm mad that people don't care. I think that's the one that makes me the maddest, is people don't care. It just boggles my mind that up until the mid-20th century, everybody understood what this document meant. And then all of a sudden, what was written on these pages was then unconstitutional. How can the very document that was set up for us be unconstitutional? And if I hear one more Supreme Court justice say we need to go to international law over the Constitution, I then want to scream. I just think I'm going to scream. So, it is now 8 o'clock. I will gladly answer any questions that I can. And if I don't know the answers, I will do my best to find them out. I encourage you that if you want a copy of this, please send me a message. That's all it's going to take is 30 seconds of your time to put your name and address and say, I want a Constitution. I will put them in the mail. It's not going to cost you a penny. And let's understand, it costs us nothing to be a citizen of this country. This country asks nothing of us. But I'm going to say it is every person's duty to make sure that we have the best governing government that we can possibly have. So yes, it is your responsibility to go out and find people that you can agree with and run for office, and not just talk them into running for office, but go out and help them campaign. Go door to door. Talk to people. Make them understand why this person is the best to represent us. You're not going to win everybody. You're not even going to win 2/3 of the people. But if you can win 1/3 of the people, that's probably the people who go out and vote. And people who say, my vote doesn't count, so why? Oh, we got turkey eggs? No. You're way too low. And no.
Well, yes.
We got a couple turkey eggs. Okay, very good. And a couple chicken eggs. That's good too. So that's why it's so important. I'm telling you, I had this back and forth with another person who actually got irate because I said, if you don't like the way things are happening, do something about it. It's not my responsibility. Well, if it's not your responsibility, whose is it? You're happy to gripe about how things are so bad, but not willing to invest some time to make sure that you have the government that you want. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Not at all. So, since I don't see any questions or any answers or anything going on, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Please send me a message. Please tell me that you want a copy of this. It's important that you understand why we were founded, how we were founded, and how this still, a document that was written so many years ago, still affects your life. Because it is the document that for the first time in history said we get our rights from our Creator, God above. No king, ruler, dictator can take those rights from us because they were not given to us by them. More than anything, more than I've ever said it before, have a safe and blessed day, weekend and week. But please, please share your knowledge, because it's just not happening. We have at least one lost generation who does not understand why this country is not just great, but so important in the world. See you guys later, and thanks for listening to me rant, and thanks for spending your time with us. Later, guys.
Bye all.